Yeah, this is Don FIGGA. I'm back, man. My brother, Mr. Weeks here. Brother Zach had to step out, but you know we're gonna continue with our conversation. We was actually just talking about some things, and you want to continue on what you were saying. We were just talking about the makeup and the production of slavery and how it was about making money and some of the things you were just saying about the rights and everything.
Okay. Well, when the slave masters went to buy slaves, they didn't just buy any black person. They had an idea of what they wanted to use that slave for. Say if it was farming and they were growing rice, they wanted slaves from a certain area who grew rice. Or say if they had a lot of rivers around them and they needed to feed, either to sell fish or whatever, there were certain tribes that knew how to poison a whole lake and just take a net and just take all the fish. And when I say poison, it would kill the fish, but it wouldn't kill the people. And they would just take and clear all the fish out the whole lake. And then also like the slave masters took and threatened them and told them if anyone was poisoned, they would like wipe out the whole plantation, so they didn't go around poisoning people. But also there were different things, like sweet potato, watermelon that they brought here because they had the seeds with them.
What was it about the watermelon that? Because when you see the unfortunate depicted images, where was the disrespectful images of that day of the black face, red lips eating the watermelon. What is it about the watermelon that made that a significant thing with us? Because we're African people from Africa, so not to my knowledge, I'm not saying there's no watermelons in Africa, but I don't know of it being such a great delicacy of Africa. So what is it that made that image? Like what made them choose that watermelon?
Okay, it's funny because someone brought that up the other day when I was speaking, and they happen to be from Africa. Okay? The thing about that is, in Africa, watermelons grew like dandelions or something. Okay, like a weed. Okay? But in Africa, they use watermelon to settle their stomach. Okay? As a cure. So, and this girl from Africa told me the other day that what happened is they brought the seeds over from Africa and started growing them here. That's where it
comes from. Wow. Yeah, because that always amazed me how, the pictures of the Zambo, with the watermelon in his mouth, and like how when you looked at it, it kind of touches you, man. Like, I don't know, for me anyway, it just gives me this eerie feeling inside when I look at it. Like, wow, how can they disrespect us like that?
No, but you know what? As you said, I'm just thinking. Think about any kind of bad thing or lie someone says when you're something. It's always a basis of the truth.
Yeah.
It's just stretched out of proportion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, that was the explanation that one of the African girls at community college gave me the other day about watermelon.
Wow. So, there's another thing I wanted to ask. Like, with the Civil War and the black soldiers, like the Buffalo Soldiers, were they like a separate group of black soldiers that were like an elite group? Because when I hear the term Buffalo Soldier and how it's always talked about and explained, it makes me feel that these guys were kind of like Tuskegee Airmen. Like, they were black soldiers, but they were like this elite group of black soldiers. Like, what is the Buffalo Soldier? Are they just black soldiers, or were they special?
Well, this is the thing. The Civil War was from 1861 to 1865. Buffalo Soldiers was from 1866 to, I'm going to actually say till today. Okay? Now, the original Buffalo Soldiers, the senior enlisted members were members in the Civil War. Okay? And what happened was, after the war was over, you had all these black men with weapons. They had, they had to send them somewhere. So they sent them to the West to fight the Indians.
Right.
And what happened is the Indians saw the color of their skin And the they also sort of like they had the buffalo pelts on, and they called them Buffalo Soldiers, and the name stuck. Eventually, the Buffalo Soldiers were the 9th and 10th Cavalry, and then I might get one of these wrong, but it should be the 24th and 25th Infantry. But they were those 4 units. Now today, there are some units that carry on the name Buffalo Soldier, and they may be air cavalry, which is like helicopter infantry and stuff like that. And some of the airborne units too. They still carry on the name today.
And I heard you say something earlier too about women in the Civil War. Black women who fought for women's rights at the time, and also you said there were a lot of black nurses, in the Civil War, and how was that important? Did those black nurses have access to tending to white soldiers as well, or were they only used for black soldiers?
Well, they were definitely used for both, because they were that skilled, to be nurses. And then again, look at slavery with the women that worked with the children.
Right.
If they were nursing, they would nurse masters' babies too.
Right. Exactly.
And take care of them just the same.
Right.
So sometimes there's some overlapping things that don't seem to make sense to us.
Right.
Because we're looking at it the way history is now.
Right.
And what we have to do is don't look back with today's eye when you talk about old history. You got to understand these people don't have the ideas and things that we have today. Because it's like today, if you grabbed someone before Columbus and brought them across the ocean to America, they'd be screaming all the way there. Like what Zach was talking about earlier. So let's remember we got to use yesterday's ideas when we talk about history. It's just unfair. It's almost like having Will Chamberlain play Kobe or somebody, or LeBron.
Right.
That ain't happening.
That's right.
We can't do that.
We got Brother Zach back, and I want to come back where you was ended off when you was saying union, because union, like when you hear Union, Confederate, and then the Union now, that word union, and it just kind of makes me feel like that the organization of the union somehow was birthed through that Union Army concept. I guess I'm trying to put it into words what I mean. I guess meaning the Union Army had a concept of what it represented and what it stood for, whatever that was, because I don't really know. And then the unions that were created to, like you said, to protect jobs. Because I'm looking at the North thing where, we're misconstrued on. People think, well, people in the North was against slavery. No, they weren't against slavery, but the North had the more industrial complex that they put together, and the Union controlled it, and it was like the South was doing their own independent thing. It's like a major label, independent label. Major labels got the control, but the independent labels have the power to still do what the major labels do, but they're not under that political corporate control like they are. So let me know your thoughts on that. What you got to say about the Union.
I guess what you're trying to say about the Union and the Confederate is that the Union is basically like an organization of people that say, hey, the South is producing a lot of stuff, and they don't have to pay their workers as much as us. So it's a thing of, what Abraham Lincoln wanted to do is like, okay, well, this is going to have to stop. How can we equal everything out? And then it's like now it's a thing of it was the same thing after the fact. There's all these workers who will do the same problems we have now. A lot of jobs were shipped to places like China. A lot of, Mexicans are working places. that, you know, as illegal immigrants. The reason why, because it's cheaper labor. You know, and the thing with the union is like these companies, they're like, okay, well, a lot of the slaves that were released from the South came up for opportunities, and it's like the white people's like, okay, y'all gonna do the labor for cheaper, so what can we do to protect our jobs? It's the same thing that happened during the Civil War. The South was doing things for cheaper, and which was making it difficult for the North. Which is the same economic problems we have now. You know, other countries are doing things for cheaper, which now we can barely get jobs. But then, you know, the things with what gave birth to that. You know, people always say, "Well, look at the bad side of it." But the good things from it is that because a lot of black people couldn't go and get their, you know, job working for someone else. They created their own. But that's the, you know, like, we had, you know, black bus companies, you know, during the boycott. We had, you know, a lot of black-owned businesses. But because a lot of people wanted to work for the corporations, and when they, you know, desegregated a lot of people left the black-owned to work for the corporations, because that's where the union was. Why? Because now, as you said, the independent labels are starting to put the big label out of business. And now, you know, dealing with that is like, okay, alright, well, what we're going to sit there and do is I'll pay you more than what you're making. If your company makes $500 a month, I'll pay you $600. So now you don't have that competition, and you have more big corporations, and a lot of the, you know, not a lot of the small, you know, people. To me, it's funny that you was talking about the record labels, it's because it's like, you know, like with the conscious rappers and the commercial rappers, they don't want a lot of conscious rappers on the radio, because it's like the only thing they're selling you is knowledge. But they want a lot of commercial people on it, because you look at a lot of commercial rappers, what are they displaying in these videos? Look at Nicki Minaj. A lot of things that she wears make people want to go out and buy. Whereas conscious rappers they're not paying attention to those things. They're trying to give you the knowledge. You know, whereas they look, okay, well, these people, they may be more profitable from that, but they don't, you know, want that. Even what we're taught in science. You know, when they give medicines, things like that, you have the control group, and you have the free group. You have, you know, the one, okay, here's your stipulations, and let's see how this work out. And this one is, okay, y'all just do what y'all want. It's the same things that's happening over and over. It's like, it seems so complex how it's happening, but if you actually sit there and look, it is very simple.
Very simple. You know, that's interesting, because you had said something earlier too when we were talking about the music, and you said like the cha-cha slide. You said, hey, you know where that comes from? We were talking about how it came from the slave dances, and it's funny because when I look at some of the old movies, black movies about slavery, and they would go into those parts of the movie where everybody was dancing and you know, and stuff. Yeah, right. You know what I mean? But the thing that I noticed is we found joy in it because of the music and the dance brought us together and helped us communicate with each other together in a space. You know what I mean? So when I look at the music today and how it's become just about being rich and having money, and well, my car is better than your car, or I got diamonds and gold and you ain't got nothing. You know, it's become this thing that is being used to really ridicule and put ourselves down more than bring ourselves up. Like, I come from that beginnings of hip hop with Africa Bambaataa and Grandmaster Flash and those guys. And one of the things that made me want to get involved in it was I felt so good came out to a park and saw these guys spinning on 2 turntables and guys on microphones talking and rhyming and breakdancers breakdancing, like I just like, yo, I wanted to just do it, you know, like I felt so good. And now when I hear music, I just, some of the stuff, I just like, yo, like what is it, man? Like,
it's how media portrays the music. Music sit there and think of in India, not West Indians, but East Indians. Think how they play the flute and the snake start moving.
right,
Even our heartbeat, it's a rhythm.
right,
Music makes us move.
right,
Even it's how media portrays. They use music to, okay, y'all gonna act this way.
right.
Then let's try to change it up. See
Right.
if y'all gonna act that way. Think of, you hear that like dirty South music, you hear boom, boom,
Right.
boom. It makes you wanna grind.
Right.
You sit there, you hear Baltimore club music. It
Right.
makes you wanna jump around.
Right,
You sit there and you hear the shout music, during church. It makes you wanna get up and
Right.
shout.
Right.
It's even the thing of, it's music. It has such a power to it that they're even taking some of the concepts and switching them up.
Right.
An example, African women are really dancing no different than a lot of African women on some of these videos.
Videos, right.
But media went from it being an African ritual
Right.
to now they're just trying to sit there and seduce your man.
Right.
The thing is, how did it get
To
to
get to that, and that's very interesting because when you look at African dance and women that do African dance, it's very, very central in how it's being done. But it doesn't perverse me when I look at it. I don't feel perverted when I'm looking at a woman doing African dance, opposed to a stripper who's doing a stripper dance. That those same moves, it's African dance. You know what I mean? It's just
music.
Music
behind it,
and also
gives a totally different feel.
the way it's projected in the concept of what she's doing. Because pole dancing is nothing new. They were doing that then, back in Africa. So it's just funny how they took our culture of music and dance, and now today it's being done, but the way it's being presented of what it is what is tainting what it is. Because the difference between the stripper and the African dancer is the African dancer is going to dress in the African garb, the clothes. She's going to do her dance and moves. Like some of those moves are really, especially if the woman is beautiful. But then when a stripper is the same, but her objective is to get you to put some of that money on the stage, or whatever. You know what I mean? So, and corporations have capitalized on that. Like, it has become the very thing that they use to ensnare men and women.
But then here's a food for thought. A lot of European men raped a lot of African women because those things that were foreign to them that the African women did turned them on. So therefore, it became a thing of black men looked at it as tradition.
Right.
But then the European comment like, oh, this is very seductive.
Yeah.
So they portrayed it more, and then they took Africans from their roots.
Right.
They didn't look at that as being a ritual dance anymore.
Right.
They looked at how the European made them look at it.
Right. Well, that's the fact that slave masters will rape the women says a lot to me, because if there was such a hate for us, why would you want to rape the women?
No, but see, it wasn't even that. Because to them, it was property.
Right.
It's like if that's my table and I feel like destroying it, who will stop me from destroying it?
Right. Right.
So they didn't even have that mindset.
Right.
Also, the laws were set up that if they had kids by black women or whatever, the laws protected the white men.
Right.
You know, they just set it up that way.
Right. Right.
You know, that's one of the things Frederick Douglass complained about.
Right. Well, it's, and I know we're running out of time, so I'm gonna. Wow, there's so much to this, man. We can go on and on. I know my time is short. So what I am going to do, though, before I go, I want to make sure that, you know, everyone has a chance to get in contact with these brothers. And I'll start with you, Mr. Weeks. Is there like a website or anything that people can
Sure. You can find me on Facebook. You can just do madfilmz, MADFILMZ. And I have too many friends, but you can follow me.
Okay.
Just follow me on there, and Twitter too.
And what about you, brother Zach? Is there somewhere they can find you?
You can look on SoundCloud, Facebook, Twitter, /ZACHARIAH. That's basically that.
And I'll put their info in the box. So when you see the clip, you're going to see their contact info in there too. If you want to contact these guys, man, they're doing great things for the community, great things for our people, man. And I think, like I said, I just think it's very important that sometimes we keep reminding ourselves of who we are, where we come from, and where we're going. You know, it's not always about the events, not always about the parties. You know, we do that stuff, but at the end of the day, it's about us as a people, man. And without the past, we don't have a future. So you need to know who you are, where you come from, and we got to come together like this. Different generations of brothers you see sitting here who are trying to help preserve the community and also keep opportunities alive for us out there. So I just want to say thank you, brothers, for coming, man. And, you know, thank you, man, you know. And Solid Rock United Methodist Church, shout out to Reverend Powell, whole church staff. You know, we trying to do our thing, man. Represent, man. Come check us out, y'all. God bless and enough respect.